Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about literal equations and formulas. This is lesson 2. Chapter 2, lesson 5. Rewrite to determine. All right, so bring out my X here, I'm going to actually change to a pen here. Let's do red today. So I have X equals the number of pizzas needed, and Y equals the number of sandwiches needed. How many sandwiches will you be able to buy if you buy 3 pizzas? 6 pizzas. So this is a question where the answer to y depends on what x is, and vice versa. The answer to x depends on what y is. So if I'm going to rewrite this to solve for pizzas, then I really should have my y over here and alone. So let's rewrite this so that y is already by itself. So if I'm plopping in 3 pizzas for this, then I would go ahead and move this around. Let's just start rewriting. All right, so first of all, I have 5y. Now I'm just going to subtract this guy to make it happen. Make sense? I just subtracted him from that side, so he's gone. So now I have left 5y equals 80 minus 10x. Now, I have to go ahead and divide both sides by 5 to get that y alone. So, by 5s. All right, so now I have to, if I divide this by 5, I have to divide this, you can say this whole side by 5, but it's really each term. So I would divide this one by 5, and I would divide this one by 5. Everybody gets divided by 5. So I have, what I have left over is y equals, what is 80 divided by 5? I would pull out my calculator if I don't know the answer, and I would type in 80 divided by 5, and that equals 16. So I'm left with 16 here. And then I would take 10 divided by 5, and that sounds like it's negative 2x. And voila, I am done there with that. So in order to solve this guy, if x is 3, if I needed 3 pizzas, let me change color down here. If x is 3 pizzas, then I would come over here and I would say y equals minus 6, 16. Do you already see the answer? You might be able to do this in your head. Y equals 10. No numbers? What? All right. So if I'm going to solve for x, I need to go ahead and pull an x out of here so that I can get x on one side and the ABC all on the other. Let's see how this works. Now, in this case, I have no numbers, and so I really can't solve the equation. There are times without numbers you might be able to solve the equation to come up with a 0. But in this case, you cannot. So there will be no solving. Let's go ahead and grab my pencil again, and I'm going to put in here that if I have an ax minus bx, I can divide both of these terms by x and pull it out. It's like doing the opposite of the distributive property. So I would actually pull out the x, and I would leave parentheses. And that leaves me A minus B. And then I still have, I can just bring down the equals C. So over here, I would actually just take this and go, and I can divide this whole thing by A minus B in parentheses, and it'll leave X alone. So if I have A minus B in parentheses, then A minus B divided by A minus B, that equals 1. So that makes that go away. Now, if I divide this side by A minus B, I have to divide this side by A minus B. And at this point, you really can just drop the parentheses because there's nothing on the outside, so I'm just going to leave it that way. So then when I rewrite this, it's actually X equals C divided by A minus B. So there it is. I have changed the formula so that I have X all alone now. So if I know what the C is and the A is and the B is, I can plop in numbers and come up with the A, the X value. Okay? So now let's check out manipulating formulas. That is an example of manipulating formulas, but here is an actual formula that is very common to use. When capital C stands for the circumference of a circle, it's the distance around a circle. So here's my circle. Imagine taking a flexible tape measure and measuring all the way around the circle. That is the circumference. Now, to calculate this, I take 2 and I multiply it by pi and I multiply it by r. And I multiply those three together and it will tell me what the equation is. So here's the thing. What if I need to figure out what r is? So now remember that pi, if you've never seen pi before, pi equals it actually equals a number 3.1415. It goes on and on forever and ever and ever. So it's a never-ending decimal that never ends and never repeats. This number I can plop in here. Oftentimes it'll get rounded to 3.14. So if I say 3.14 here, can I solve this so that circumference equals r? So I'm finding out what r equals. Well, the way to do this is to take 2 times 3.14. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my calculator. 2 times 3.14 equals 6.28. So I still have 6.28 r equals C. So now if I'm going to solve for r, then I would take my 6.28 and divide. And then, of course, if I divide it on 6.28, I have to divide it on that side. So I'm going to rewrite over here that C over 6.28 equals R. Now imagine that if I knew that the circumference was 64, then I could even plop in that if this distance was 64 feet around it, then I could actually plop this in and divide it out. So 64 divided by 6.28 will tell me what the radius is. So I'm going to type it in, 64 divided by 6.28. It'll give me 10.1910828. I'm going to say that's about 10.2. So the way that I say about is I use a funky equal sign. 10.2, when I have this number that goes on and on forever, you can only just say that it's not truly equal, it's about 10.2. Ta-da! And that's it. So you have some work today. I want you to go ahead and get down to practice time, and I'll be around to help.